For question number 1, the first thing we need to do is factor the numerator, and it's a difference of squares. So it's going to factor into y plus 8, y minus 8, over the denominator of y plus 8. Then I can see that I have a y plus 8 in the numerator and in the denominator, and so I can simplify those, and so my final answer will just be y minus 8. For number 2, I'm going to start off by factoring all the parts that I can factor. So the first part I can factor is this 2n plus 12, and the 2n plus 12 is a GCF. So I'm going to factor out a GCF of 2, and I'll be left with n plus 6 on the inside. My denominator of n minus 2 will stay. The numerator on the right side factors by multiplying to 12 and adding to negative 8, and so that would be negative 6 and negative 2 over n plus 6. Once it's entirely factored, then I can look for what will simplify. So my n plus 6 and n plus 6 will simplify, and my n minus 2 and n minus 2 will simplify. So I'll be left with 2 times n minus 6. In number 3, we're going to do it similarly to number 2, but since it's division, the first thing I want to do is keep the first fraction the same and then multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction, or sometimes called a middle school stay, change, flip. And actually, all this factoring was done for you. We just had to remember to change the division to multiplication and flip the second fraction. So no more factoring is required for this problem. Now I just need to look how to simplify. So my a plus 2 and my a plus 2 will simplify. My a minus 2 and my a minus 2 will simplify. So I'll just be left with 3 times 4, and so my final answer will be 12. In number 4, this is a long division problem because I'm doing a polynomial divided by a monomial. So to set up this long division problem, I'm going to put the h squared minus 6h plus 9 on the inside, and I'm going to do the h minus 2 on the outside. I'm going to start off by saying, okay, h times what is going to give me h squared? Well, h times h will give me h squared, and then I'll multiply the h by the h and the or in the negative 2, excuse me. And when I do that, I'll get h squared minus 2h, which I'll then subtract. H squared minus h squared will become 0, and then I'm going to have negative 6 minus negative 2, which will become negative 6 plus 2, which will be negative 4h, and then I'm going to bring down the 9. So then I would say h times what will give me negative 4h? Well, negative h times negative 4 will give me negative 4h. And then I'm going to multiply each of those by negative 4, so I'll get negative 4h plus 8. So negative 4h minus negative 4h will give me 0. 9 minus 8 will give me 1. So then I'll have a remainder of 1 over h minus 2. In number 5, we are adding. When we add fractions, we need to get a common denominator. So in this case, my two denominators, one of them is b minus 1 and one of them is b minus 4. And so what I'm going to do in this case is, since those denominators do not have anything in common, I'm going to trade denominators. So I'm going to multiply my right fraction by b minus 1, and I'm going to multiply my left fraction by b minus 4 on the top and the bottom. Now I'm going to get a common denominator of b minus 4 times b minus 1 on both sides. I'm going to leave the denominator in the factored form, but I'm going to multiply out the numerator. So I'm going to do b times b is b squared, and b times negative 4 is negative 4b. 2 times b is 2b. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Now that I have a common denominator, instead of having two fractions, I'm going to rewrite it as one fraction over the common denominator by adding the numerator. So I'm going to get b squared minus 2b minus 2. Now from here, I want to check to see if my numerator is factorable to see if I can simplify it anymore. So I'd have to think about, does anything multiply to negative 2 and add to negative 2? And in this case, the top is not factorable, so this would be my final answer. If the top were factorable, we would want to factor it and then continue to simplify. Number 6 is also an adding problem, so I'm going to get a common denominator. But the first thing I'm going to do is factor this right denominator. Once I factor the right denominator, I see that both denominators have an x plus 4. But in order to get a common denominator, I need to multiply this first fraction by an x. So my common denominator will be x times x plus 4. So on the left, I'm going to have negative 5x over x times x plus 4. And my right will stay the same. Now that I have two fractions with the same denominator, I'm going to combine them to become one fraction. So I'm going to have negative 5x minus negative 4x, which will become, negative 5 minus negative 4, which will be negative 5x plus 4. And again, the top does not factor, so we cannot simplify this anymore. Questions 7 and 8 were about solving. And when we're solving, similar to when we're adding and subtracting, we want to focus on getting a common denominator. So if I look at number 7, I have denominators of 2, 4, and 8. So the least common denominator of 2, 4, and 8 is going to be 8. So my goal is to make all the denominators an 8. So to make this first denominator an 8, I'd have to multiply by 4. Since I multiplied by 4 on the bottom, I need to multiply by 4 on the top. The second denominator is a 4. To make that an 8, I'd multiply by 2. So my new equation is going to be 12m over 8 minus 2 over 8 equals 10m over 8. Now, since I'm solving, when we have fractions, the denominator is always going to stay the same. So when I'm solving, the denominator no longer matters. So now I'm just going to focus on solving the numerator. So I'm going to have 12m minus 2 equals 10m. So now I'm going to finish solving this. So I need to get the m alone on its own side. So I'm going to minus the 12m to the other side. Finish getting the m alone by dividing by negative 2. And so I would get 1 equals m, or m equals 1. In number 8, I also am going to focus on getting a common denominator. And in this case, my least common denominator is going to be m times m plus 4. So I'm just going to combine all my denominators. So to get that common denominator in the first fraction, I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by m plus 4. To get the common denominator for the middle, I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by m. And the last one, to get the common denominator, I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by m plus 4. So my first fraction, my denominator will be m times m plus 4 in the bottom. And now I need to multiply out the top. So I'm going to do m times m is m squared. M times 4 is 4m. Negative 4 times m is negative 4m. And negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. All right, then the middle one, my denominator is going to be m times m plus 4. And on the top, I'm going to multiply both of these by m, so I'm going to get m squared minus 11m. And then my other fraction, again, common denominator of m times m plus 4. And on the top, I'm going to do 1 times m, which is m, and 1 times 4, which is 4. Once I have a common denominator all the way across, I'm just going to focus on solving the numerator. So I'm going to have m squared. Well, 4m minus 4m is 0, so minus 16 minus m plus 11m, because this negative has to be distributed in, and it's going to equal m plus 4. Now let's focus on combining some like terms. So I have m squared minus m squared, so those are going to subtract. So I'm just going to have negative 16 plus 11m equals m plus 4. So now I need to get the variable on one side. So I'm going to minus this m over to the 11m. And so I'll have negative 16 plus 10m equals 4. Add 16. And I'll get 10m equals 20. divide by 10, and I'll get m equals 2.